So guys, let's talk about function. What are functions in JavaScript? Functions are just blocks of reusable code that can perform a specific task, and they can take input, they can return output. It's just like when you have, let me say, a sub code. It's just a block of code that can perform a particular task. Like for instance, you can have a function that, okay, let me use your mobile phone as an example. When you pick your phone and you press the call button, all it does is it calls and it's able to like drop the call. So that particular button is a function that does what, that make calls. Yeah. So that's how function work in JavaScript. They're just blocks of reusable code that perform specific task. Just like your eye is a function in your body because it can only see things. You cannot hear through your eyes. You can only see through. You can only see with your eyes rather. So it's a function. So that's how it is in JavaScript. So let's get it straight into the business. Let's see. Let's write some functions. Let's see how to write functions in JavaScript. Okay. So let me come here. Let me call this functions.js. So how do we write functions in JavaScript? We have different way of writing functions, but let me just give you a typical function. The function starts with the word function. I'll say function greets, the name of the function. Then if there's any value you want to pass in, then you pass in the value. Then you put the curly braces. Then we'll say we can say okay, return. Then the return of the function. What will the function be returning? Because a function must always have a return statement, except it's a void function that will not return anything. But most times function returns something. Say hello, good morning. So how do I call this function now? If I go to my, let me log this in my console.log, I'll say greets. Then you put two bracket that shows it's a function. So if I come here and let me save this, let me go out of this particular folder, then cd functions, then say node and functions.js. You can see we have hello good morning because we are returning hello good morning. So with this function now, so this function greets people. It greets people. That's what the function does. Doesn't do anything aside greeting people. So this function cannot do otherwise. We can make it do something else because this is what it does. So anyway, this function is being called, what happens is that it greets someone. So that's that about this particular function. So we have different type of functions in JavaScript. We have regular functions. Okay, before I go there, let me do a function that accepts a keyword. Let's say that takes in something. So let's say this function greets with a name, and right here we have to specify the name. So to do this, you're going to use what we call backtick. So I'll be able to call the value of that particular name that is being sent in. So use backtick, then use this, then you say name. So it's going to say hello, good morning based on the name that's being passed in. So if I come here and I passed Peter, so that means this function takes in an argument. This is an argument. So it takes in an argument or a parameter, whatever you call it. So that means whenever you're calling this function, you must pass in something. So if I save this now and I come in here, you can see say hello, good morning, Peter. So let's assume I didn't pass anything and I try to run this. Let's see what we're going to get. You say hello, good morning, undefined, because Peter is not, because the name is not defined. So the name automatically becomes undefined. I believe you understand from when we're doing our data types when I was mentioning undefined, that once the value is not defined, it's automatically regarded as undefined. So that's what happened here. So we can come back and say good morning, Mary. What we want here is Mary. So if I do this, that should get good morning, Mary. So that's for that. So let's talk about different types of function. We have the regular function. That's the one we start with a keyword of saying function. We can say with the name function. So we could also define other functions, other type of functions. We have what we call the arrow function. And arrow function can be declared using const. For example, I say const had is equals to, then I put a bracket like this, and I'll put an arrow, then I'll put the curly braces. If I say, let's say here I'm passing two value, you know, in the previous place we are passing one, let's pass two value here, let's pass A and B. Then I can come here and say return A plus B. That'll be the return statement. So if I come into this, let me change this, and I change this to had, and I put 3 and 5. So if I run this now, I should get 8. You can see this is 8. So this is an arrow function. You don't have to put function here, you just use the word const for arrow function, and you use arrow instead of having the function, the name, and curly braces. You have const, then you have the name, then equals to, then equals to, after the equals to, you put a bracket and put your parameters, then you put an arrow, curly braces, and you return whatever I want to return. We also have what we call the anonymous function. Yeah, we have anonymous function. Anonymous function. So how do we declare anonymous function? They actually, most times without a name, they often we use them as argument. For example, set timeouts. We can use set timeout as an example. Set timeout, and now say, okay, function, then I say console.log, it's time, console.log time to dance. Now here we need to pass a value because this is a set timeout. We'll talk about this later. I want to stay for 1 second. So if I come here, I don't need this. So if I save this now, if I come here, function, you'll see it waits for 1 second and it shows time to dance. So this is an anonymous function, it doesn't have a name because it's passed into another particular function which is called set timeout. So this is actually meant to wait for 1 second and display its time to dance. So it's called anonymous function. So that's that for anonymous function. So we also have some other types of function like callback, other functions. We'll be talking about that here. So that will be all for functions. Thank you very much. So when we start making use of functions, we'll talk about them more later. But this is just basically what functions do in JavaScript. Yeah, see you. Bye.